Hello students. Yes, in this video I'm with a new topic, dividend decision. How dividend decision is going to play a vital role. See, I've told you multiple times on what are the decisions that which plays a vital role in an organization. Always the first one is a financing decision, where it talks about how the funds should be raised based on the company's needs or the requirements. Followed by you have investment decision. And what does investment decision talk about? See, out of the funds what you have raised under investment decision, you are going to make a gentle or a wise decision with respect to where you have to invest your amount. What you have ascertained, is it in form of equity, is it in form of debentures, or in form of issuing the preference shares, right? Again, it all depends upon the organization's nature, that is nature of the organization, plus the size of the organization. What is the capital? Bigger the business, bigger the risk. When there's a bigger the risk, that is which is associated with the bigger capital, right? So when the company is going to raise more in form of debt, what is happening? There's a lot of the borrowing funds than the own funds, isn't it? So it is very important for the organization to take care of these two decisions, fine. Followed by you have something called as a dividend decision, where I am going to deal with this particular concept in my another 4-5 consecutive videos. Well, so see, finance is something where you are going to acquire the funds, followed by you are going to invest. See, after making the investment, what do you expect? Is it that I'm going to invest 1 lakh, over a period of time I'm going to just get back my 1 lakh? No. Each and every investor, he'll be smart enough, before investing would have made a ground study, how the things are going to work, how the factor of a risk and uncertainties attached with the portfolio, what he is going to pick, isn't it? So it is very important. Dividend is something that which speaks about the portion of profits which is shared among the shareholders. When can you make the profit? When you have made the investment. When you have made the investment, out of that you can maintain the money, isn't it? When you have made a profit, it is not that entire profits I am going to declare. That is, in the sense, the company is not going to declare entire profits in terms of dividend. A portion of profits will be kept, will be given in form of dividend, and a portion of amount of the profits, it will be retained. A portion of it can be used for the provision or any kind of reserves. The company can use it for any kind of growth, that is expansion or diversification, isn't it? So this is the concept of the dividend decision is going to work in an organization. Now, what is dividend is all about? See, dividend is nothing but the payment by a company to its particular shareholders, that is out of the profit what it has earned, right? See, I've told you several times what will be the payment hierarchy. Always out of the profits made by the organization, the first payment should be made to the debenture holders, right? The outsiders, followed by to the preference shareholders, at last equity shareholders, that is the owners of the organization, they have to share it. See, dividend is something which is paid to the shareholders out of the revenue profits which is earned it in the ordinary course of a business. Well, coming to the the concept of dividend, what does it talk about? See, dividend, it represents the part of the profit of a firm, that which is to be as I said, it should be shared, that is distributed among the shareholders of the organization. And the company declares the amount of a dividend at to its shareholders, right? So shareholders will get the dividends, that is in proportion to their shareholding in the company, based on what they have invested. Upon that, they are going to receive the dividend, right? So here the dividend may be in the form of a cash, or the non-cash, or issuing of the bonus shares instead of giving the payment of a dividend. So basically, the dividend decision is nothing but the financing decision, of an organization, where it is, the distribution of the revenue profit to the shareholders, that is in proportion of their holdings, what they hold in the organization. Where you can see the nature of cash or non-cash, where the dividends may be either declared in form of cash or in form of non-cash. Generally, they are paid in cash to the shareholders, but sometimes instead of cash payments, the company goes for issuing of the existing shareholders free of cash, which is nothing but the issue of a bonus shares and a final or interim, right. They have something called as a fixed and variable, right. This talks about the concept of a dividend, like how it is going to work in an organization, right. So dividend is nothing but a portion of profits, which is shared among the shareholders out of the company's earnings they are going to receive. See, when a corporation earns a profit or surplus, of course it is able to pay the proportion of the profit as a dividend to the shareholders, isn't it? So any amount which is not distributed, it is to be taken in form of reinvesting in the business, which is called as a retained earnings, that we shall take up in my next video, right. So the current year profit as well as the retained earnings of previous year, they are available for the distribution, right. So a corporation usually is prohibited from paying a dividend out of its capital, whereas the distribution to shareholders may be in cash, right. So usually a deposit into the bank account, or if the corporation has a dividend reinvestment plan, the amount can be paid by the issue of further shares or by share repurchase, right. In some cases the distribution may be of asset as well, right. So here the dividend which is received by shareholder is income of the shareholder, isn't it, and maybe subject to the income tax, right, dividend tax, right. So the tax treatment of this income, it also varies, like between the jurisdictions, and the corporations, it doesn't receive a tax deduction for the dividends what it is going to pay. So it is very important to understand the concept of dividend, where it talks about how it is being allocated as a fixed amount per share, with the shareholders who are receiving a dividend in proportion in their shareholding. And the dividends, it can also provide the stable income and raise the morale among the shareholders, right. So all these things are going to act as a barometer in terms of earning the income. So basically what you have to understand about the dividend is that, see, it is something where it talks about the amount which is given, that is out of the profits the amount is given among the shareholders of the organization, right. So this talks about the concept of dividend. Well, now we shall understand what is a dividend is all about. Say dividend is something, as I said, it is nothing but a reward, a cash, right, or in form of bonus shares that which the company is going to give it to its shareholders. Who are these shareholders? The investors who has invested in form of shares in a company, they are going to receive. And dividends, it can be issued in various forms, as said, like you have cash payments, stocks, and in any other form, right. So here, as a whole, if I have to sum up, our company's dividend is decided by whom? By the board of directors, and it is going to require the shareholders approval for this. And it is not obligatory for a company to pay the dividend, but dividend is something which is a usual part of the profit that the company shares with the particular shareholders, right. After paying its creditors, a company can use a part or whole of its residual profits, that is to reward its shareholders, which is called as a dividend. However, when firm faces the cash shortage, right, or inadequate cash handling is happening, so or when it needs cash for the reinvestment, it can also skip paying dividends, that is for the actual owners, the equity shareholders. So when a company it announces dividend, like it also fixes a record date, like, and all the shareholders who are registered as of that date, they become eligible to get dividend payout in proportion in their shareholding. So the company it usually mails the checks to shareholders within a week or so, right. So stocks are normally which are bought or sold with the dividend until like 2 business days ahead of the record date, and then they turn like X a dividend as well. That's how things are going to work here. So the term dividend is something that tells about the part of a profit of a company, wherein which is shared among the shareholders, and it is something the right of the shareholders for the investment what he or she has made in the organization. On that investment, what they get is capital appreciation. Here that appreciation, that return is, talks about the term dividend, right? So it is something which is a profits which is distributed among the members of the company in proportion to their shares as per the memorandum and article of association of the company. So it is very important that, making profits is the basic motto. On that, whatever the investment you have made, on that you are going to receive the profits. Out of that, a portion of profits you are going to, as a firm, you are going to distribute it among the shareholders of the organization in form of dividend. It's a kind of a reward, a cash, or it can be given in terms of the bonus shares as well. All right, so this is all about the meaning and the definition, as well as I've given the introduction about the dividend decision.